Hello, and welcome to Team Franco Bodybuilding Podcast, episode number 10. Just want to take a moment to thank everyone for listening, downloading, sharing the link, and I'm having a good time doing these because my goal is to put the truth out there, to debunk some myths, to give some guidance to first-timers or those who are in the game of competing and or fitness, a better idea on how to handle things, and simply to make it an easier process for you. Today is going to be a little bit more detailed, not scientific, but just laying some truth out there for you to give it some thought as you enter a diet, or if you are in the middle of a diet or even a contest prep. And as the title says, what is an exit plan? I'm first going to start talking about not only for contest prep and bodybuilders and physique athletes alike, but whenever you see the word diet, I think you should run. Only because it's a quick fix, as we know. When I was growing up as a kid, I remember certain diets through the years, the grapefruit diet, the cabbage diet, what have you. Just put whatever words and then diet. They would work. Yeah, they would temporarily work, and most likely it's water weight, and it gives you some structure for a short amount of time. And you would have whatever weight loss. If you didn't care what you were losing, then the diet worked for you. But 99% of the time, and I think most of the listeners know this, when you do some funky type of diet like that, as soon as you come off of it, you're going to gain the weight back. That's not the idea. My coaching, as you know, is pretty much a practical and healthy approach, and I try to drive for a lifestyle. So even after you reach your goal, you're going to continue. And that goes with my fitness clients. I'm not a fan of doing anything crazy, and they say, hey, Joe, what about this diet? What about that diet? I'm like, it's all bullshit. You have to ask yourself after you reach your goal, or do you even see yourself doing this in a year? So there's no exit plan with those diets. So you see where I'm going. Take that a step further, and you're a physique athlete, and you are competing for the first time, or you're making a comeback, or you are a seasoned competitor. Do most of you have an exit plan? That's the big question mark. Do you have an idea what you're going to do after you reach your goal? Do you want to be one of those people that gain 20, 30 pounds within a few weeks of looking your greatest on stage, only to wipe it all away because your strict diet didn't allow some flexibility? That is a recipe for disaster. Not only for your physique, your hormones, your health, and your psyche. The way that you feel about yourself is basically trash because you gained all that weight. It's rampant. I'm guilty. When I first started competing, I've had those moments where, I was a kid when I was competing in my 20s, and we didn't have the knowledge that we did now. But also the rebounds weren't as terrible because my hormones were quite faster and everything. My metabolism was faster, so it wasn't much of an issue, and it didn't bother me if I did gain weight. My last couple of preps were a different story because I planned ahead. Now, a lot of you are thinking, well, how can I avoid this from happening? How can I have an exit plan? What is it? Well, to have an exit plan takes some planning, but it also takes some fortitude and knowing that after you compete, you're not done. It's an evolution. You want to keep on going. Yes, you do want to gain weight back. Yes, you want to enjoy the foods that you may have eliminated or had in limited quantities, and that's going to lead into my next point. But you don't want to have a blowout. That just ruins everything. So how can we avoid it? That's what I'm going to go over now. And it's not easy. It really isn't easy because it's just, you've been dieting for so long. You've been restricting your calories, all this exercise. It's a relief once you compete, and then the floodgates open. But having a plan, at least down on paper or your computer, and more so mentally, is going to benefit you in so many ways. So that is why when I coach a client, I don't do meal plans. Meal plans to me are very similar to following what I introed with is the grapefruit diet, the cabbage diet, cabbage soup diet, or whatever you want to say. Because when you limit your food intake, you become so used to it. So therefore, you have that mental relief after you compete, and then the doors open, the floodgates open, and you feel like you want to have everything that you missed over the last 3, 4, 5, 6 months. You're not going to have control. It just becomes a disaster. So to lessen the blow, if you have some flexibility to your diet and you count macros, you can include a glass of wine. You can include a slice of pizza. You can include just about anything that your heart desires. So therefore, the temptation is not going to be as great when you come off of your diet. There are those, even that method may not be the best, but I promise you it will lessen the blow. So just to give a quick review, when it comes to an exit plan, you want to have an idea about your calorie intake, macro intake, the week after. You can enjoy your nice meal after the show, relax the day after the show, and even have intuitive eating. But the sooner you get back onto a plan, and even if it's more calories, you're going to be in such a better place instead of ballooning up. Again, I've seen so many people who may lose 20, 30 pounds during their prep or more, and then in a month, they're back to their starting point. And, if they had abs, the abs are gone. If they had striations, they're gone. All their shape is gone. And it's just, psychologically, it's really hard to handle. I've been there. My last prep was the most flexible prep that I had. I did what I coach. I did not crave anything crazy. I just ate a little bit more, basically what I was eating during the last few months of my prep. Sure, I had my dinners, they were a little bit looser, and I would have carbs with them because that was just a way of me cutting calories during my prep. But I didn't go crazy. If we had pizza night on Fridays, instead of one slice, I had 2 or maybe 3. But I also monitored it. I realized that, okay, if I go a little bit overboard today, I'm going to be a little bit more conscious the next day. I'm about 4 months out from my last show, and I'm 15 pounds up. That's within striking distance for me. I'm at a comfortable level. I didn't gain excessive amount of weight too fast, and I feel good. And I feel good about myself. So you have a choice. When you enter the goal of wanting to lose body fat, being a competitor, a physique competitor, or just someone that wants to lose weight and have better general health, you have a choice on the approach that you want to take. Do you want that quick fix and hoping that you can keep it off and not yo-yo? Or do you want to give yourself an opportunity, and that's the word that I stress, opportunity to lessen the blow, to have flexibility to your diet. Therefore, after you reach a goal, you're going to continue to evolve, and therefore, you're not going to blow up as much. So, in addition to having a more flexible diet to allow a better exit plan, is there another thing you can do? Well, yes. This is the second main point. And I stress this again with my clients and with my fitness-minded people who just want to better themselves. Give yourself more time to reach the goal. Allow better habits. And I did a whole podcast on habits, how they're more beneficial to develop than just to focus on goals. So listen to that. But if you give yourself only 3 months, and you see me joking on Facebook all the time, how magic doesn't happen in 12 weeks. A lot of things can happen in 12 weeks, but you're stricter during those times. You're being more hardcore, so therefore it's that much harder to come off of a more drastic approach in a shorter time frame. If you give yourself an additional month, 2 or even 3 months, and gradually lose the weight, lose the body fat, your body and your mind gets used to the position, and it's not as much stress on your hormones because it's a gradual change. That, in addition, helps immensely for having a positive exit plan. The slow, gradual approach of losing weight, you're getting used to your diet, so therefore you're not going to crave again after you reach your goal. So it's the combination of two that can really help someone, having a flexible diet, having a longer prep, a longer time frame for reaching that goal. And a little bit earlier in the podcast, I touched upon frame of mind, I think. And as competitors, we are driven, especially physique competitors, we are driven. Most of us are type A. I'm guilty of it. So you'll do anything. You don't mind being hungry. You don't mind, but I've also, you don't mind, working out hungry, going to bed hungry, whatever it is. But I've also learned over the years that more type A you are, the more type A you're going to be after your prep. So there's some training with the mind that needs to be going on. And that's where I talked about you have to learn that it's a constant evolution. I said earlier that it's a mental relief after you compete, so the floodgates open. But you have to constantly remind yourself that you're not done. It's, you got to look at the possibility, oh shit, what if I do gain all this weight? I know I'm going to feel like shit. Then I'm going to want to go on a strict diet again and do another contest prep. That is the worst thing. That is a major yo-yo. You hear yo-yo dieting all the time. That's a terrible yo-yo diet because you're going to be affecting and fucking up your hormones. So really, to summarize, because I'm going off on a tangent, the few things that you want to consider before you go on a plan, or if you're on a plan now to compete or to get to low-level body fat, is first, have some flexibility to your diet. That's one of the beneficials to counting your macros, allowing other foods in that you may feel that, can I eat this? Yes, you can, because meal plans that teach you obediency, and those meal plans are going to be more detrimental when it comes to your exit plan. So having some flexibility to your diet is going to be very helpful for the exit plan. Allowing yourself to diet longer than what you anticipated is the second main factor that's going to help you and give you a better exit plan after reaching your goal. Giving your body time to adjust. So you don't have to do anything too extreme, but just to lower your calories a little bit here and there is going to be easier on your body, for one, and more so mentally. And then mentally coming off of your diet when you start adding them in, because you're not going to want to blow it out again because you missed it as much. And then 3 is training the mind. Telling yourself that your body is going to continue to evolve. This is just one step. One step. I won my class, so what's the next goal? I want to win my pro card. What's the next goal? I want to become a pro and compete at a high level. It's a constant evolution that you got to remind yourself, because then if you blow it out and gain a ton of weight, you set yourself back that much more. So those are the 3 main points that are going to help you develop an exit plan. And I can't really give specifics because we are all different. We all have different fingerprints. Because I know some of you are waiting for me to say, like, how many calories should I have? How many calories, should I add in per week? Well, if there's a gun to my head, again, everyone's different. I usually like to, again, it's a guideline. If someone reaches a certain body fat level and they are totally shredded, I do like bringing the calories in a little bit quicker instead of saying, all right, add 5 grams of this, 5 grams of that each week, because to me that's more torture. I would say, when you're about 4 weeks out, you have a certain caloric intake versus obviously when you compete. I say jump, about to where you were a month out from your contest, bring up to those calories. Does that make sense? So, for example, if you're at 1,700 calories 4 weeks out and you're down to 1,400 calories by the time you competed, bring it right up to 1,700. Bring it up to that point and see how your body and how your mind feels for a week or so. And if you're not really gaining any weight, well, then add in a few more calories. I mean, it's all instinctual, and that's where maybe having a coach can be beneficial. But those three things, if you're doing this on your own that I mentioned, flexible dieting, giving yourself time, and mentally training yourself to evolve, are the real benefits that are going to help you at the end. It's an important topic to me because I've had clients come to me, or prospective clients, who've had terrible preps through meal plans, and they rebound terribly. They didn't have the guidance, or they dieted in a short period of time, and then they just blew up and all sorts of shit happened. And as a coach, you want to help everyone, but sometimes you got to understand, it's going to take time to recover. It's going to take even more time to recover. And you want to get the body up and going again. So that's going to wrap up this podcast, basically talking about exit plan and some strategies that you can take into play. I'm hoping you guys found it helpful. I know my voice changed a few times, and that was because I had to pause it because my dog was barking at Amazon and the mailman. So, again, thank you guys for listening. Any questions, concerns, please email me at fritfranco@verizon.net. Interested in coaching or you have any questions about what I do, teamfrancobodybuilding.com. I have posing classes, I have shows through the OCB, all that good stuff. And thank you guys again. Take care.